It's the 17th century, and we've all heard there are great riches to be won in establishing plantations or colonies in the Americas. You're bored of your life in England, your old routine. Perhaps you're unhappy with the established religion and want more economic freedom. You want to make your own colony in America. But how is it done? Stay tuned, because in this video, I'm going to guide you step by step in how you can become a successful transatlantic colonialist. Before we begin though, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss a helpful and informative video. Be the colonialist you always wanted to be. Step 1, pick your target. When choosing where to locate your colony, there are a few important factors to consider. First, you need somewhere with the appropriate resources to make you rich as quickly as possible. Now I know what you are thinking, gold. But the problem is that Spain has already gone straight for the golden jugular and is already in possession of the best known gold and silver mining regions. Consider instead what materials England is dependent on imports for. We like sugar, coffee, cotton, and the devil's weed itself, tobacco. None of which are we able to produce for ourselves. If you can get in on any of those resources, then you can definitely make money. All those products require choosing a location for your colony closer to the equator, in the latitudes that the relevant plants thrive in. This comes with its own problems though, because whenever we do settle in those regions, we, English people, die in very large numbers. Even if you don't die, large numbers of your workforce will, and you have to continually bring in new people to keep numbers up. Now, where are you going to find such an infinite source of labor? That's a whole other problem. You could head for a more northerly site that is far more suitable for Englishmen to live in. But that begs the question, how will we make money there? As the great John Smith recommended in his own guide to colonization, some of the less glamorous resources are more dependable. Cod in the North Atlantic, valuable furs from the interior, even food which you could supply at a profit to the cash crop colonies of the Caribbean. They may not have the glint of gold or shine of silver, but they can still make you rich. These latitudes have another advantage. They are further from the Spanish. The Spanish, quite greedily, claim the entirety of the continent for themselves, but in reality, they are overextended already. Most of our successful settlements in the Americas so far have been at a sufficient distance from the Spanish, so that the Spanish can't get at you too easily from their centers of power in Mexico and Peru. With all these considerations in mind, if you are determined to grow cash crops, consider establishing your settlement in the Lesser Antilles, on the eastern end of the West Indies, or in the lower parts of the eastern seaboard of North America. Definitely bring your guns though, because the Spanish will come. They slaughtered the French settlements in Florida and the Carolinas, and have attacked French and English settlements in the Lesser Antilles many times. Alternatively, if you are a cod and furs kind of guy, try further north in the region variously called Norumbega or New England. Step 2. What type of colony organization are you going to have? English colonies broadly fall into 3 types, but only 2 are relevant to us. First, the original English colony was that of a company. In this case, you will bring a group of like-minded adventurers together and apply to the king for monopoly over trade and settlement in a certain region, just as the Virginia Company did for Virginia or the Providence Island Company did for islands in the West Indies. Our adventuring merchants in Asia operate in broadly the same manner. With this monopoly granted, we can eject interlopers from our assigned territory and get to work building our new settlement in accordance to a charter agreed to by the adventurers and the king. Common stipulations of the charter are that we fairly seek to enrich our company members while also providing a significant share to His Majesty the King. We should endeavour to Christianize the natives we find in our territory, and there will likely be some regulations about the treatment of settlers, which will depend greatly on the political beliefs of the company members. Are you and your friends religious fanatics seeking some unorthodox Christian utopia? Feel free to put some requirement that your settlers conform to your religious ideals, but do bear in mind that this can make your colony less appealing to some would-be colonists. For most of you, a company will be the best option for your colony. The second form of colony you could establish is a proprietary colony, essentially a privately owned colony held from the king in a feudal manner. This will, in theory, give you more rights over your colony, though you'll need a good personal relationship with the king to get this. Furthermore, you may find you have to dilute your power a great deal to make the colony work. You have to ask yourself, why should colonists choose your colony over others? Many proprietors find they have to offer a lot of political rights to settlers in order to get them to move and to stay in the colony. All in all, there aren't a lot of advantages to this type of colony over a company unless you are very well connected politically. Now, the third type of colony is a crown colony. That is, a colony directly controlled by the English government. This isn't directly related to us and what we're trying to do, except to say that if you mismanage your colony badly enough, it will be taken from you and become a crown colony. This has happened to some great chaps already, most famously to the Virginia Company. So you better listen carefully to the rest of this guide so that that doesn't happen to you. Step 3, promote. Step 3 will continue throughout the life of the colony, but it will begin before you even set sail for the New World, promoting the colony to investors and would-be colonists. Intelligent colonial enterprises use a range of material to inform the national community about their expeditions and settlements. Artwork, books, ballads, theatrical performances are all useful in their own way. In preparing this material, you must consider what is your audience looking for? What would cause an investor to invest and a settler or would-be settler to settle? Well, first of all, money. They both want to make money. So be sure to enumerate at length on the great riches to be found in the colony. Cotton, sugar, innumerable spices, tobacco, silkworms, gold, silver, better wine than Italy, better coffee than Ethiopia. Of course, we haven't even gone there yet, but we can always find someone to claim to have visited approximately that part of America and vouch for the fertility of the soil and the wealth of resources. Secondly, note how suitable the climate is for Englishmen. Everyone knows that in some parts of America, people die incredibly fast from various illnesses, that some locations are stifling hot and make it impossible for Englishmen to do manual labor. If you've chosen one of the hotter locations, be sure to describe its climate as akin to the Mediterranean and note its pleasant and healthy breezes. For a northern colony, compare directly to England. This will reassure your audience immensely. Finally, don't forget to mention religion and the natives. Thanks to the work of the Spanish monk Las Casas, everyone knows what an ungodly tyranny the Spanish brought to native peoples of their empire, a crime compounded by converting the poor innocent souls of Mexico and Peru into Catholics. Englishmen don't want to feel they're engaged in a similar escapade, so your promotion should note that your natives are peaceable and friendly to the English, and that though they are godless, they will be quickly brought to the true Protestant religion by the actions of your company. Having engaged in this promotion work, you should start to raise money and receive interest from potential settlers. While I have emphasized the need to appeal strongly to the wishes of colonists, you should also consider carefully who you agree to sign on. So many colonies have been ruined by low-quality personnel. Lazy men who imagine they will get rich by conquest in the manner of Cortez and Pizarro should be avoided. Find men who are used to work. Ambition is fine, but they have to be men who can strive for it. Step 4. Organize a voyage. Now, you have your intended location. You have permission from the king for the scheme, and your promotions have attracted enough investment and settlers for you to get started. It's time to prepare your first transatlantic crossing. Very often, the ships used in such expeditions are inappropriate. They're usually too small to carry enough passengers for a new colony and sufficient supplies for those passengers to sustain themselves on both the journey and the first months of settlement. Unless you are particularly well supported with maritime resources, then this fact will greatly inform your plans. Let's consider the route. A direct crossing of the Atlantic is possible, and to most non-seamen will seem logical enough, but that is probably not the right way to do it. Atlantic winds do not favor such a route. The strongest Atlantic winds blow most consistently from the northwest to southeast, and then from the east across the Atlantic in a southwestern direction, as you can see on this map. These are the prevailing winds, and they favor a sort of clockwise route around the North Atlantic, first going south down as far as the coast of Africa, and then west to the Caribbean. If you are settling the Lesser Antilles to plant sugar, then this is your stop. But if your target is North America, then you should continue through the Caribbean, up through the Florida Straits, towards the Chesapeake or wherever else you want to go in the North American continent. This route has several advantages. The winds are predictable and strong. There are several stops for resupply along the way. Madeira, for instance, and the English settlements in the Lesser Antilles. It's not the only option. You could, as the Mayflower did, cross the Atlantic further north. This took them over 60 days, far longer than a journey at the same latitude in the opposite direction. They were sailing into the wind by tacking, that is, sailing in a zigzag route. This is slow and lacks resupply, but does greatly reduce the chance you'll accidentally meet an unfriendly Spanish ship. You'll have to weigh these options carefully before setting off. Another important consideration is food. Stock the ship with plenty of long-lasting food. Hard biscuits, salted meat, meat packed in barrels of butter, hard cheese, plenty of beer, and plenty of brandy. Now be careful. Many a man employed by a company for such a scheme has badly abused his employer's trust. The master of the ship that took the Providence Island Company's first expedition to the West Indies held back as much food as he could from his passengers because he wanted to resell it in another location. You need your colonists fit to work when they arrive, so make sure you get a very well recommended captain for your ship. You will need trustworthy leadership too. Whoever is leading the first expedition should be a company member, fully invested in the enterprise, who has some experience with the Atlantic world beyond England. That being said, many of the men in England with Atlantic experience gathered that experience in piracy raiding the Spanish. As noble an enterprise against our enemies as piracy of that sort may be, the temperament of the maritime bandit is not that of a hard-working settler. The ideal leader is as follows: a man of independent means and good social standing, a company member or close relative of the proprietor, a man with transatlantic experience, either in business or in service of his country. He should be able to give orders and raise morale in the early, difficult years of the colony. Finding such a man is key to making your colony a success. Step 5. The first years of the colony. First order of business upon arrival is food. Like we said, it is very probable that stocks of food are not ideal in the crossing to America. I don't care how much you want to go looking for gold, experimenting with silkworms, or setting up your plantation for tobacco. You have to plant food first. Our colony at Jamestown was nearly destroyed by the so-called starving time, when the settlers had no food. Don't make their mistake. If you took my advice and very carefully recruited your settlers, then you'll thank me at this stage, because this is the first test of their quality. If they don't want to plant food, then they are useless. That all being said, we will not be able to depend entirely upon farming food in the first year of settlement. If you're in a tropical location, you can probably supplement the diet with locally growing fruits. Though bear in mind, English settlers often make themselves sick by overeating tropical produce. If you are near a pre-existing English colony, or friendly French or Dutch colony, particularly in the Caribbean, then you can go to them for supplies. Even Spanish settlements may well sell you supplies if they can get away with it, that is, without their governors finding out, because they are as eager to profit from colonization as the rest of us. For this, you will of course need money. If you are on the continent of America, then for this and many other matters, it is absolutely vital that you make immediate and friendly contact with the natives. If you have good relations, they will trade with you for food. In fact, in many cases, they are eager to offer food as a gift, at least initially, but regular trade for food will be a lifesaver for your colony. Now, on the natives, you may be imagining that you will emerge from your ship like Columbus, standing before natives who are stunned to see these strange beings from another world. That's all hogwash. The natives know what you are. We, the English, are latecomers to America. But the Spanish have been up and down the Atlantic coasts of the Americas for generations now, including those places that they haven't actually settled in. This is no bad thing. The natives have already learned to appreciate European products, particularly the metal products that they don't possess, but which we can produce so easily. You'll be amazed what you can get for tin cups, Iron kettles, hatchets, knives, all manner of cutlery or other small goods that to us seem quite mundane. As traded goods, they'll keep you well fed in the first years. As gifts, they can help smooth over diplomacy with your new neighbors. You should have plans for regular supply. It may be that your colony can ultimately become self-sufficient in food production, but it's also quite probable that that will never happen. Your settlers will of course start experimenting with different cash crops, and if any of them works, like tobacco did in Virginia, sugar in Barbados, then other settlers will want to shift over to this crop too, at the expense of growing food. In Barbados, sugar has become so dominant that virtually the entire island is covered in sugarcane, and the island can be fed only with constant supply of food from England and other colonies. You'll have to play it by ear, but whatever you do, don't assume your colony will be able to support itself anytime soon. While developing the economic life of the colony, you will also need to prepare yourself for defense. The fact of the matter is, virtually all colonies get attacked sooner or later. Right now, we have mostly good relations with the Dutch and the French in the Americas. Your problem is going to come from the natives and the Spanish. If you ignored my advice and located your colony close to key Spanish interests, then you had better be ready for a fight. Build forts as quickly as possible and bring guns and swords and men willing to use them. Conflict with the natives is unfortunately very common, despite our hopes to convert them. The fact of the matter is, your settlers, even the best of them, can be quite a grasping bunch, ever wanting to expand the bounds of their property at the expense of the locals, and this inevitably leads to fighting. Many companies go out of their way to protect the natives from their own colonists, but this often leads to its own problems, with colonists denouncing and even attacking their own superiors for denying them the right to extend their own personal dominions. Managing both relations with the natives and the settlers will demand a great deal of tact. To ensure the safety of your colony, it is imperative you find allies among the natives, particularly those weaker tribes who resent the more powerful tribes. This way, when conflict does arise between yourselves and the leading local powers, you can call on these allies for assistance. Your people will also need to be trained regularly in militia duty. In summary, choose your location carefully, prepare well, recruit good settlers, organize your Atlantic crossing with diligence, prioritize food and supply, and be prepared to defend yourself. If you follow the advice in this video, I am confident you can make a success of colonizing America and fulfill your dream of establishing a new England in another world, and in the process, getting very rich. You will win wealth and glory for yourself and for your country. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps me a great deal when you do that. Good luck in your colonial endeavors. Godspeed.